This is the Parkinson's Fight Club, a podcast dedicated to empowering and inspiring those living with Parkinson's disease. I'm your host, Jamie Bryson. Hey everybody, welcome to the Fight Club podcast. I'm super excited about today's show. Had an opportunity to sit down with my friend, Joe Barrett. We've actually never met, but we've been friends for a little bit. We met online through one of the Facebook groups and immediately realized I saw a post that he put on Facebook about how he ran the Moab 240. And I sent him a message and said, dude, we have to be friends. So that kind of how this relationship got started. But, Joe is an incredible dude. He has Young-Onset Parkinson's. He's about my age and, has a lot in common. We have a lot in common with family and working and everything. So I really think you guys are going to enjoy this conversation. Joe is kind of cut from a different cloth, if you will, a little bit crazy, which is how I like it. And this, you're going to hear about his story and how he is working on another attempt this year at running the Moab 240, which is a ultra marathon in Moab, Utah. And he did it last year, and you'll hear a little bit about that story, how he did, and hope you guys enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed the conversation. Hey Joe, what's up, man? Welcome to the podcast.
What's going on, Jamie? Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I've been looking forward to this conversation. We had to reschedule a couple times due to scheduling issues, but both of us are busy guys.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm glad we're finally getting to sit down and get it done.
Yeah, man, definitely. Appreciate it.
So introduce yourself. Just tell us a little bit about who you are and, what your family situation is these days.
Sure. Yep. So like Jamie said, my name is Joe Barrett. I am 41 years old. I'm a divorced parent of 3 kids. My kids are, the twins are 8 and my oldest is 10. So, kind of in the middle
Busy.
of chaos right there.
Oh, yeah.
But, I live in New Jersey. I'm pretty active. I'm an active father. I definitely like to get out with the kids and get down on the ground and wrestle with them and stuff. And, let me see. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. I had to pull up my app on Instagram because I always forget the date. I'm not good with dates. So it's 2/25/20 was when I was diagnosed. So
okay. And you work full time, right?
Yeah, I work full time. Yeah, I'm still employed. My symptoms are really manageable. I feel blessed that I don't really present. Like if I'm on my medicine, I feel like I'm pretty good. Like we were just talking before, like I just took my next dose of Rytary, and I usually take it at 12, and like it's kind of like when it starts kind of like fading a little bit, but by like 12:45, I get back into it. So so you might see everybody tells me like my mouth, I go like that a little bit, like with my mouth. That's like usually when people tell like my close family knows when like I'm on an off period or I'm about to go, take another dose or something like that. So
okay. Yeah, we both actually took our dose right before this started.
That's it, man.
So, yeah, I mean, I think what you just said is pretty common for a lot of YOPD people that, most people who know us, who don't really know us, have no idea that we have it. So, because
I mean, we're lucky that we can do that, because, there's a lot of folks out there that don't have that, they're like, fully disabled at this point, and, kind of, they present, and you definitely can tell something's going on. So, yeah.
So, tell us about how you came to, like, how old were you? You were diagnosed in 2020. And how did that whole process come about? What were the symptoms? What led you to go to a doctor?
So in 2017, I ran the New York City Marathon. So I didn't hit my under 4-hour goal like I wanted. I was like 4:15.
That's still a pretty solid time.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with it. But I'm kind of like when I like with running, I've always never really trained the right way. I never did like the full distances and stuff and like followed a regime. I just kind of just went at it like, I'm going to go run 10 miles today and the next day take off. And so I think if I would have had a little bit more of a dedicated program there, I would have been a little bit better. But so
You
yeah,
had
2017 ran the New York Marathon, and then
you had an athletic background though, right? Like you weren't just like some guy that never exercised that decided to run a marathon.
no, yeah, I ran in high school. I ran the mile and the 2 mile, and then I played football from when I was 7, like all the way up through high school and college. So I played
Yeah,
D3 football for Maine Maritime Academy. That's where I went
that's
to
awesome.
college, and I got my bachelor's degree there. And then I graduated and didn't really like the field I was in. And my family's always been into construction. My father's been a dock builder or carpenter, like
Okay.
for forever. That's like my first job was, cleaning up job sites with him.
Yeah,
And
dude, I grew up the same way, man. My stepdad
yeah,
was a contractor,
no, there you go.
and
So you know all
we'd
about
go
it.
clean the job site up for to get some money.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
my first real job was I worked on a fishing boat down here. I lived on the Jersey Shore.
What town?
I live in Point Pleasant, so
Okay.
but when I was 13, I had a summer house in Belmar, which is a couple towns north, and they have like a big fishing, party boat scene there. So I would
Yeah,
go down like the docks and just ask the captains if I could clean out their bait buckets for some cash. And
that's
one
cool.
of the captains was like, "Why don't you be a mate?" And I was like, "I don't know what that is." And he's like, "You're gonna come out and help." And I was like, "Okay." So for that whole summer, I was a mate on a fishing boat, just like working doubles and just kind of getting into it. So
Wow.
yeah, man, it's definitely I love the Jersey. It's like it gets a bad rap, obviously. It's got like negative connotations out there, but I really
It's not like the Jersey Shore TV show from back in the day.
no, it's not. No, unfortunately, I know everybody wants it to be that way, but I mean, there definitely are parts. There's definitely bars that are like that, and there definitely are people that come down here that are just stereotypical right off of that show.
Yeah,
But for the most part, I feel like we're all just pretty normal people.
yeah.
So, but yeah, so I ran the New York City
You ran.
Marathon, then I
Yep.
started training for the Key West 100.
Yes.
And because a friend of mine we all go to the beach together. It's like a bunch of kids that I graduated with high school.
Hmm.
We all go to the same beach, and it was one of my buddy's dads who got me into like he's like, "You ever try running anything further than a marathon?" I'm like, "There's something further than a marathon,"
Yeah.
And he's
Like,
like,
why
"Yeah,
would
we do."
anyone do that?
Yeah, it's like, "What? Wow, I'm into it." Like instantly, I was like, "Let's go!" I'm
Yeah.
like, because
Hmm. I
you know,
bet.
I'm definitely into extremes, definitely like, growing up, it's definitely like all or nothing, you know what I mean? So,
Yes, I do, and I think you and me we know each other a little bit from talking back and forth
yeah,
for however long we've been doing that, and it's
yeah,
like, man, every time we say something, we're like, man, we're so alike.
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the first time like I got a text from you. I think it was right after I ran the Moab 240.
Yep.
You were, I think your first text was like, "We have to be friends,"
Yeah,
just
that's
because like
exactly what I said.
like you looked at my bio and stuff, and then like I looked at yours, and I was like, "Dude, did we just become best friends?" And you're
Yeah,
like, "Yep."
basically.
Yeah, so and we had so many similarities, like with the kids and family and stuff like that, and
Yep.
then how we choose to, attack, this YOPD diagnosis that we have instead
Yeah.
of letting it run us. We kind of try to, you know, grab the wheel and try to steer it in our direction, and I think that's the approach that I've been taking, towards it, and
We kind of have that David Goggins mentality, right?
yeah, just like let's go,
Yeah.
you know. Um,
Although I can't hold a candle to him, man. He's on another level. But
I don't think he's a one off, like a one of a kind.
yeah,
Nobody can hold a candle to him. He's
yeah,
crazy.
man. Yeah.
Um, so I started running for that, training for that
Now, did
Key
you get a
West
training
one.
plan for that, or did you still kind of?
I kind of sort of got a training plan for that. I just basically doubled everything I was doing for the marathon. So, and then the gentleman that I talked about, like he was like, "Yeah, your biggest thing is you got to do two instead of doing one long day on the weekend and then having a rest, you got to do two."
Yeah.
So I just like started doing that. And then, like almost instantly, while I was running, my left leg and my left arm weren't swinging. I was like noticing
Wow.
like a lag, and so much so that I fell a couple of times, and it was like I've fallen before, so it's not that big of a deal. But like I fell and I scraped the top of my hand, so that means I didn't get my hand out quick enough. And by the time I got it out, like it folded, it wasn't strong enough to hold me, and it folded under. So like,
Weird.
I mean, I've been working out, lifting weights, and like I'm a strong person. So for that to happen, I was just like, oh, that's not good. So then I started.
So the whole time you were running when you were doing the New York City Marathon, that didn't happen?
Nothing.
It started after that?
Yeah. So like I ran to 2017, I was on a thyroid medication, and that was it. And then in 2.5 years, I was right when I got diagnosed, I was on like maybe 10 or 15 different medications, anti-anxiety, depression medicine, all these different vitamins and stuff. Doctors had me going on different things. And, it just like kind of escalated to the point where I was going around to doctors like in my local area, but I just kept getting like, I get no answers. It was kind of like, you have anxiety, or, you're really depressed, that's what this is. Or have you tried yoga? And it's like, I tell you, by the end of it, like if I heard someone tell me that again about yoga, I was like, we're gonna fight, like, because it was just like, yes, I've tried yoga, and it's just, so it was like a 2.5 year like kind of battle of going to all these doctors, rheumatoid arthritis, like every doctor under the sun.
Dude, that's crazy, because I also went to a arthritis doctor too.
Mm-hmm.
And I was they actually put me on medication. They said I had psoriatic arthritis, which I might have, but
I don't know what that is.
It's like a form of it where you get skin issues too.
Oh, okay.
Like you get dry skin patches and stuff, which I do have.
I got.
But yeah, that's so crazy. Like I was having all these weird pains and stuff, and my story that I was told I had anxiety too. So
I listened to
so much parallel. Yeah.
I listened to the podcast with you and your wife, man. That is such a good podcast for people out there, because like it shows how like you guys interact so well together, and how you guys support each other, how like how loving it can be for a couple to kind of, it's just so good to hear that, because so you get diagnosed with PD, the world is over. That's like, I remember, so I finally went through all these doctors, and I was like not getting anywhere. And then my aunt worked for like Hackensack University Medical Center. It was affiliated with NYU. So I went to a movement specialist up there, neurologist, and he literally said, walk down the hallway and walk back. He saw me walk down the hallway, and he actually didn't let me get all the way down the hallway. He stopped me halfway and said, all right, walk back. And then I walked back. He's like, all right, you can go inside. And like I sat down, and he's like, I just want you to be prepared for this. And he said, you have early onset Parkinson's disease. And like in the movies, it was like the whole world was just like, I remember like it literally got dark.
Closing in on you.
Closing in. And like it was like I was hearing him, and then it sounded like he was underwater. It was like, wah, 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 wah. And then, and at the time I was married, and I had my wife on the phone, like speakerphone, because she couldn't make it to the appointment.
Dude, our story's so similar, man. Like even the little details, like the same thing, like the doctor made me walk down the hall, and she was like, within 5 minutes, she was like, you have Parkinson's. She wasn't at least your doctor was like, hey, I need to prepare you for this.
Mm-hmm.
That was nice. My doctor didn't say anything like that. She was like, you have Parkinson's.
Yeah. Like, yeah, my doctor actually dealt like specifically only with Parkinson's patients. So I don't know if maybe your doctor didn't have that bedside manner because she was just not used to that diagnosis, kind of.
Well, supposedly she is a Parkinson's specialist, but
okay.
I don't know. Maybe she's been practicing for a really long time, so I don't know. Maybe you just kind of, I think doctors can suffer from sort of like a fatigue with compassion, like compassion fatigue, or whatever they call it, where it's like it's just you're dealing with so much bad stuff all the time, and people are having so many issues. It's hard to So anyway, it's still nice to have somebody with good bedside manner. Either way,
kind of ease you into it.
So you're sitting there, and he tells you that, and your wife's on the speakerphone.
Yeah.
And then what?
So So I can hear him. He goes, we're going to hang up. Joe's getting upset. So we hang up. And like my dad is my best friend. Like he was the best man at my wedding. And in 1999, I was a senior in high school, and I got diagnosed with leukemia.
Oh yeah.
So March, my senior year of high school, I got diagnosed with leukemia, and I go through 6 months of treatment, like lose a whole bunch of weight, lose all my hair, like everything.
Wow.
And I remember the doctor came in when that happened, and he said, I think you guys should sit down. So I was laying on the bed because I couldn't get out of bed. I was so tired. And my parents sat down, and he's like, you have cancer, you have leukemia. So me and my mom and my dad are in this hospital room, and like, we cried for like a good 10 minutes. And then it's funny, I can get choked up at it. My dad's like, you done?
Absolutely.
And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you're done, right? And I'm like, done with what? And he's like, feeling sorry for yourself. And I'm like, yeah, Dad. And he's like, great, because that's the attitude we got to take, and we're going to beat this. And I was like, let's go. And that was it, man. So I took, I had like a 6-month protocol of like chemotherapy and stuff like that. And it was out of my system after the first treatment, which was good. But I signed up for an experimental protocol that I had to go through the whole 6 months to try to further, the procedures and treatments for others, like moving on, from me. So, so I had that kind of same thing happen where I get diagnosed and kind of fall apart, and then I get myself together and I walk out to the, down to the street level. I'm in like in the middle of Manhattan. My dad worked, for some reason, he was working 3 blocks away, which is never that way. I worked in the city as a union carpenter for a bit, and we were very rarely on the same jobs. So I didn't think he was going to be like nearby. And I texted him. I was like, Dad, I got diagnosed with, with Parkinson's. Can I come pick you up? And he said, yeah. And he gave me he just dropped a Google pin, and I was like, two blocks away. So picked him up, hugged in the car, fell apart. And then he's like, you done? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, deja vu, buddy, right? And he's like, I love you, but man, it's kind of difficult being your dad sometimes.
Oh man.
So
yeah, I mean, it's hard on him too, I'm sure, to see you going through that.
Mm-hmm. So my parents are just like, they're my rocks, they're always there for me. I try to shield them from some of things, so like when I was, probably not for the better, but when I had cancer and I was going through leukemia treatments, I tried to put on a brave face a lot, and I could do that pretty much until the very end, because the last treatment, I just had no energy, so like they saw like the full, brunt of it. So even now, like I try not to get them involved in like the daily, like PD, struggles that we all have, some days like our medicine doesn't work. Sometimes you have to take a nap. It's just I'm 41 years old, and I'm like, if I don't lay down for 45 minutes and get horizontal, I'm like worthless, so.
I'm the same way, man. It's the fatigue is a big struggle for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, I imagine that your training and stuff that you're doing is also, in some ways it's good. Like it helps your PD, but in other ways, obviously you're expending a lot of energy. So your body needs to recover from that stuff.
Yeah,
sometimes.
Definitely. I've struggled with some mental health stuff, so.
Of course.
And even before PD, like there was just a lot of stuff going on, and running was always my outlet. Like I could always go run and feel better, because I've literally never gone on a run, got back and been like, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
I've always felt better after a run. So I get diagnosed with PD, and the one thing that I was shocked about was like, you walk out of that treatment center, and I had like 3 bits of information. It was like, you have PD. We don't know how it's going to affect you. Everybody's affected differently. And here's Michael J. Fox's website to go get some information. That was it. I was like, and like, that's just like, it's like, if I was thinking about like, if I had, a proclivity to having like dark thoughts, and I was in a bad spot, or at that point I was like super depressed, and I left that facility with that bit of knowledge, having a family, having like a marriage, having a home, having all this stuff, and then having that little information and thinking the worst, it's just like, it's incredible that happens with our healthcare system nowadays, that like people are allowed to leave with that hard of a diagnosis and no backup, none.
Totally by
Just,
yourself too. Yeah.
that was just something that I want to change, like I know we have like a lot of common thoughts and stuff like that, but like down the road, if I was able to like start an organization that, like someone gets diagnosed with PD, they get like a phone number and it's like, call this organization. And there's like, counselors on the ready. There's people that have gone
That'd be
through it,
amazing.
and that can help out because
Yeah.
like you don't know. So then you start on the rabbit hole, the YouTube rabbit hole, and then then you start going on Facebook groups, and like some of the Facebook groups out there, they're great. They give you a ton of info, but they are like there's no like vetting of any of the posts or anything like that. So you might have somebody that has a totally different experience and is posting, because they're just venting, which I think is great. I think people need that outlet. But for me, I'm an action oriented person. Like I need to be able to, think that I have some control over this.
Mm-hmm.
And, to get on those websites and it just takes you down a very dark space, So then I think that's how we kind of got like linked up, was I joined the runners group for Parkinson's.
Yep.
And then I posted a couple times on there, and then like you reached out, and I was like, "Oh, that's awesome!" And then you just started that, the new group, which is like, it's so good to have people with like mindset.
Yes.
Like together. We're all in different varying stages of it, but we all have the mindset that like we're not going to let this beat us. We got to go out there every day and treat exercise almost like it's a prescription.
Yep.
And then do something every day to get better.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like every day that we do something, every day that we go out there and, run a mile, walk a mile, like walk a quarter mile, do whatever, it gives us that much more on the back end. We save that much more time on the back end because we don't know what the future holds, and that's fine. But, I think that if people were able to know that like exercise is the main component of staving off some of these symptoms, you can go into it with that attitude, and there's hope there. There's
Absolutely.
no hope if you go out and you're just like, you don't know what you're going to do. You don't have a starting point. You don't have a plan. And I think that's what some of the like your website, I think, is going to give that to people.
Yeah, I hope so. And that's kind of the point of the podcast too, is like people need to hear stories like yours and mine and others that, everybody has like this really hard experience, especially the younger folks like us, in the middle of your, early, you're not midlife yet necessarily because you got young kids.
Yeah.
And so you got a full-time job, you're working hard, you got, a house, you got a mortgage, you got car, you got all this stuff, you got to pay for. And all of a sudden somebody comes along and says, hey, you got Parkinson's. And if you're like me, you were thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in a walker next week. Like I it's like, it just blows your mind. You think my life is over. Like,
yeah,
I just been robbed of the rest of my life. I'm going to be some sort of, dependent person for the rest of my life, and people are going to have to take care of me. And you just go down this really dark hole,
like instantly.
And then you get on some of those Facebook groups, and it's like some of those posts, you're like, oh God, I shouldn't have read that. Like, it scares you, and the people, like, I don't know if they're even aware of what they're doing, but they're going out there and they're, like you said, they're posting out of anger and venting, but there's so much despair in a lot of that stuff that I'm like, I just can't. I can't like that can't be what I'm consuming.
No.
Like I need to be consuming thoughts and be around people like you who are like, yeah, like this sucks, like big time, but we don't have a choice but to fight this.
Exactly.
So
you were saying like you got to surround yourself with like good people, like-minded people, like, and I think that like I have a small group of friends, and they're great, but like I need more, surrounded by more like healthier stuff. So like I read and listen to podcasts like all the time, like Rick Roll podcast. I don't know if you've ever. Like,
I like
he's
Rick Roll.
great. And it's just like all positive stuff, you know. And I'm a positive person, and I can still get pretty down. But I find if like I'm eating well, sleeping well, I'm listening to good stuff, I'm able to keep a positive attitude through this. Even the days where like for some stupid reason the medicine just doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. You know, I did all the right stuff.
Yep.
You know, I ate right, I slept right, I took my medicine on time. I went to the bathroom, so I had good digestion. All the stuff that you do, and then for some reason your leg is dragging and you can't swing your arm. But you know what? The kids got to get up. The kids need lunches. You got to drive them to school. You have work to do. All that stuff doesn't go away, you know?
Yep.
So you just got to get through it. And I think that, having friends like you and like in the group and, paying attention to like-minded people that are, going after it every day to try to, stave off this, this stupid disease. I don't know. It just makes me feel better knowing that, like, if I wanted to, which I have done, I was like, I posted on the one group, that I'm switching to Rytary after being on like carbidopa, levodopa, and tacopone. And I was like, I don't know what to expect. And like you jumped on right away. You're like, can you FaceTime? I was like, yeah. So like we talked for like an hour and a half about just like your experiences with it. Like the hospital, your doctor should be able to do that with you. Like I feel like we should have people that, not on the ready, but like, it's so nice to have people like yourself out there that like they see that. Like I'm jumping on Rytary. I have no idea. I'm scared. Like I have no idea what to expect. And you were like right away, you were like, call me, and then you walked me through it. And they didn't give me the information that you gave me, that like you're basically going to guinea pig yourself. Yeah. You're going to have to trial and error this. It's not a one size fits all. It's going to be a little bit of a bumpy ride. And
yep.
I was like, all right, but you got through it. And I was like, all right, I can do this. I can get through it. And it was definitely a little bit of a bumpy ride,
Yes,
but
it can be. But like once you get there, once you get it dialed in, man, it's just so worth it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm pretty dialed in right now with it. So, and we were talking about like how my first dose, I can push maybe 6 hours.
That's awesome.
And then the second dose is like 5. And then my third is like pretty much 5 or 6, I was taking pills. I was taking the carbidopa, levodopa, and tacopone every like 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I just can't do this. I'm like walking around. I sound like a medicine cabinet because I have like a little pill holder.
Pill
like,
box and it's rattling. Yep.
And I have like an app on my phone that's like that's the signifier that the reminder that you have to take medication.
Yep.
So like my kids hear it. My kids don't know yet that I have Parkinson's. And then
oh really? I didn't know that.
So I was talking to my ex about it, and like we're at the point now where I think I'm going to sit them down and talk to them about it. There's a good book called like Shaky Hands.
Oh, okay.
It's like a kid's book that like, and it's narrated, it's like, it's just like kid's book, and it kind of gives you some ideas of like how to bring it up.
That's cool.
Like that. But they hear that signifier and they're like, Dad, take your medicine,
Yeah.
So, like, but
yep. My kids do that too.
So,
I have my Apple Watch it buzzes me every time when it's time.
Yeah. You have the Ultra, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you had to get that.
Yeah, I mean it said Ultra on it, so I have to get it. Yeah. And
there's supposed to be some software update at some point that will make it last through a whole
extend the battery. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I don't think that's happening though.
it still lasts pretty long for me.
Yeah, I get 16 hours out of it. I think.
Oh, if I running?
Played music, yeah, and ran.
Yeah, that's not bad.
So, no, that's not bad.
So I want to back up and ask you about, okay, so you got the diagnosis when you were training for the Key West race. Did you end up running that or no?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
So, I still tried to run, but it was just like, it hurt more to kind of struggle through it than to like the therapeutic value of it. I was missing because I was so like concentrating. I'm like, why isn't my leg working? I was actually taking my arm and sticking it in my sleeve. And because if it's not going to swing, then let's not let it swing and just like not be a dead fish on my side of my body. So I would just start running with my arm tucked in my shirt.
Uh-huh.
And like I would run at night because I didn't want people looking at me like, what is that guy doing? You know?
Yeah.
And it looked like I kind of was missing an arm, or like I was an amputee or something like that.
Yeah.
So I wound up not running that, and then so then February 20, I got diagnosed, and then I started to get on medicine. You know, and then the initial getting on medicine is just, I wish I knew you, because I was just like struggling through that. I started off with a patch.
I did too. I hated
and then
that
it was
thing.
like, and then they didn't want to put me on carbidopa levodopa right away, because like, you know, it just, some doctors take a very non-aggressive approach, you know. So then like I struggled for like maybe 6 to 8 months trying to get through that, and then finally I went to UPenn, University of Pennsylvania, which is like a really good facility for Parkinson's, and they just have a lot of resources. And the doctor that I saw, his name is Dr. Fruth. He's like, he's just like super aggressive, and I loved it.
That's
like
awesome.
I walked in right away, and I was like, you know, what do you think about this? And he's like, listen, he's like, my goal is to get you feeling like you don't have PD. And I'm like, that's great. And he's like,
I love that.
He's like, I want that now. I don't want that in 6 months to a year. I'm like, I was like, are you worried about like, because that's kind of, I think the theme is that like they don't want to put you on carbidopa levodopa right away, because you build up like a tolerance to it, or the disease progresses through it a little bit quicker. That's what people
used to think. Yeah.
But now that's not necessarily the case. But but he's like, there's going to be so many more advancements with medicine and techniques. He's like, I'm not going to put you through hell for now to try to save something on the back end that you might not even be, you know, it might not even be available for you. So he's like, let's get you right now, and let's get your head right, and get you back running, because that's what you need. And then he's like, then we can start addressing things, you know, and see what we want to do. So for the past, like, was that 3 years now? It's almost, that, you know, he's been my go-to. So,
that's awesome. Yeah. It's so important to find the right doctor. And, it hasn't come out yet, but I have 2 more episodes, you know, where I talk about my doctor journey. And also, you know, the cancer that I had.
Yeah.
Which, you know, that's another thing we have in common, you know, like we both had cancer. So,
yeah. Have you tried yoga? Sorry.
No, not really. But, you know, and we're both like endurance athletes and all. It's kind of interesting. We had I think a lot of YOPD people have a similar experience with, you know, but I had the same thing with my first doctor. Was like, I don't want to we're putting you on the patch. And the patch, like, I don't know if we talked about this, but it made me weird. Like, it made me do some weird stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and, you know, I didn't need to be on that. So the finally got a doctor that ended up putting me on Ritari. Well, I went on Cinemet first, and then to Ritari pretty quickly though.
Oh, okay.
So you ended up on the medicine. Tell me about your marriage situation. I know that you're divorced, and you were together when you got your diagnosis. Tell us how that all kind of played out, if you are comfortable with that.
Yeah. So I'm definitely comfortable with talking about it, and that's something that too, like, I wish more people were sharing, is like, you had gotten on with your wife and you were talking about how it affects your relationships, you know, and you know, that's something that's like, it's so key. It's such a big component of, you know, a marriage, is when somebody gets like such a devastating diagnosis like that, and, you know, how to navigate that, you know, and you kind of just like wade through it, you know, if you don't have any help and there's nobody, you don't know where to get the resources. So you kind of just like fumble through it, and, you know, some folks make it, some folks don't. And, you know, and by no means was I abandoned, you know, or, you know, my diagnosis wasn't the only reason that I got that we got divorced. You know, there were other things at play. And, you know, but, you know, my ex-wife right now, she's probably one of my best friends. You know, she keeps me
That's great.
Pretty grounded. You know, I literally live like around the corner, you know, so, you know, we have a really good co-parenting philosophy. You know, we see each other quite often. And, so when I was diagnosed, we were together, but then, you know, we kind of went through some stuff, and there were other things at play, and, you know, we decided to separate. and we've been separated now for about 2.5 years. So kind of like maybe 6 months after my diagnosis, I'd say.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people out there don't have a lot of resources to kind of deal with those emotions that get through you, that kind of,
Yeah.
and, at the time I started hiding behind alcohol. I was using alcohol to self-medicate. And because if you think about it, like I was diagnosed in February 2020, and then COVID hit, and then I lost my job for a period of months. I
Oh, wow.
have PD, and I don't have anybody to talk to about it. I was seeing a counselor, but like nobody to relate, like nobody was in that specific situation that I knew, you know.
Yeah.
So, and I just wanted to check out. I wanted to get numb from it. I just like, it was just too much. It was too overwhelming, and I didn't have the tools to, to kind of deal with it. I didn't have any coping skills, and I've always had a real funny kind of relationship with alcohol, like a love-hate relationship. So,
Oh, yeah.
like it was like, it was there, like I definitely had some, I would say I was more apt to having a problem with it than not. And
Okay.
then once all that stuff kind of came down and was super heavy, getting that diagnosis, having trouble with, things at home, not
It's a
having a
lot,
job, there's a pandemic, you don't know what's going on.
dude.
Like it wasn't, I had no chance. I had no shot that I
That's
wasn't going
crazy.
to take that out, and then, I went and got help. I got 30 days of, went to a rehab in Jersey for 30 days, got out, and I've been clean since, and I just needed to like a reset and, get some good advice on, like how to deal with life on life's terms, as they say in the room. So I'm part of a 12-step program. I
Yeah.
go to AA now, and,
Mm-hmm.
it's just real important for me to stay sober through this, because none of that stuff is going to make me feel better. Like I don't have a relationship with alcohol that most people have. It's almost like I have an allergy to it. So, I stay away from that, and,
That's good.
things are better, now than they ever were. So,
So 2020 was a tough year.
slightly.
So when did you go to rehab? What
Mhm.
what, what was the time frame on that?
30 days. Yeah, it was 30
And I
days.
mean,
So,
like you got diagnosed early 2020.
mhm.
When did the rehab thing happen?
That happened in July of 2020.
Oh, okay. So yeah, not literally like 6 months after.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Wow. So
um,
you had a lot
no,
happen to you in a short amount of
July
time.
2021. Sorry. Yeah, July 2021.
Oh, okay. So a year.
About a year and 6 months later.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, so how long would you say you struggled with alcohol then? For a whole year or so? About a year?
I think like if I'm honest, I would say that like from the first sip of alcohol when I was like 13, I had an unhealthy relationship with it.
Yeah.
Like,
Hmm.
I mean, I had a great childhood. I can't say anything bad about how I was raised, or I wasn't beat or anything like that. I didn't go through any like hardships. My parents were always around. They're still together today, and they're great parents. Like I model the way that I parent,
Yeah.
about how they parented me. And it's just, I think for me, it was just kind of like a luck of the draw. Like I just had a genetic disposition to not being able to drink alcohol in an adult manner, in moderation.
Hmm.
So I would say like through high school and through college, I just drank pretty strongly. But I was able to like, I still graduated high school, still graduated college. But
Yeah.
when you come home from college and you're drinking like you are when you're by yourself or with your buddies, and you get all of a sudden you're thrown into like people that have normal relationships with alcohol, and like yours relationship with alcohol, which is not good, stands out like a sore thumb.
Hmm.
So, going up to the bar and ordering 3 drinks for yourself, and then, asking people, what do you guys want? Because, you don't want to wait for, the bartender to come around. So you order like extra drinks,
Wow.
just like
Yeah.
stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
but, when I had first met my wife, she had kind of helped me, and, it kind of came to light that, I needed to stop drinking. So I was sober for, since like probably 2005 until roughly around that time.
Oh, okay.
You know, it just it was just like a
Got back into
familiar,
it.
it was a
Yeah.
familiar checkout. It's just like
Understandable. Yeah.
I just felt alone. And
Yep.
then if you feel alone and you know that there's a way to kind of numb that feeling, and you don't have the right skills and you don't have the right mindset, you don't have friends like around you, and you stop talking, talking to your friends and
Yeah.
reaching out for help. And like
Hmm.
that's the hardest thing too for me is like asking for help, and
Yeah.
that's what as a patient with Parkinson's, you need help. There's going to
Hmm.
be times where you just can't do things, and that's part of the journey of it for me is trying to get okay with asking for help. So
Yeah.
so I went back and I just started self medicating, and then
Hmm.
it got out of control quick, and then we decided that I needed to go away for a bit, and I came back and like had a whole different outlook,
That's awesome.
but at that point I was divorced, so
It's
I
like,
kind of had to.
it's another disease that you had to overcome,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, got a lot of
So,
things going on, man.
yeah, for
A lot
sure.
of like PD, alcoholism, cancer survivor. There's a lot of stuff out there,
Yeah.
but it doesn't
So,
matter. It's just mindset. You just got to get through it. You got to put your head down and like, if you want to harp on the bad stuff, yeah, you can do that. It's not
yeah.
going to do you anything. It's not going to do you any good. So,
So at some point you got back to running again
hmm
regularly and it was enjoyable, I'm assuming. Was that
yeah,
after you started getting on good meds from UPenn?
yeah. As soon as I got on carbidopa levodopa and like I could like kind of time, because I would then have like good periods, like 4 hour, 5 hour stretches. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh man, I want to go run, like I need to get running. And then I could time my runs in between my, off periods and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
that gave me my life back. I was able to start
That's
running and,
awesome.
you know, um, I ran last year, I ran the Moab 240. So I did not finish, but I actually am running it again this year and I will finish. But last year I did not finish. I got to day 3, was about 156 miles into the race, and
Wow. Yeah.
just had a series of misfortunate events like through the night that I was just I couldn't make it through it. So it was
Well,
definitely a good race though.
well, let's back up because
Hmm.
obviously that's one of the main things I wanted to talk about is your Moab journey. So,
Yeah.
so you started running again. At what point did you think, oh, I'm going to sign up for an ultra marathon?
Literally the day after I tried running the Key West training for that, right? And then I couldn't because I couldn't run. And then I finally got on the good medicine. As soon
Yep.
as I had a run that was like over 10, it was a double digit run. I was like, all
Yeah.
right, let's get back into these ultras. And I started thinking about ultras, and I was like, what's the longest ultra in the States? And it's the Cocodona 250, right? Is that the one that just happened this weekend? Is it
Where is
Cocodona?
that? I don't know if I
It's
know
in
about.
Arizona,
Okay, is that part
I
of the
think.
Triple Crown
For like the Triple Crown, like because there's
running?
Moab 240, and
Yeah.
then there's a couple other ones, but I think that's a standalone, the
Okay.
Cocodona 250. But then my buddy lives in Utah, so I went out to see him after I kind of got out and living with divorce and being alone and stuff like that, and my head wasn't exactly in the right spot, and he's like, Joe, just come out to Utah for a bit and like let me show you around like the nature and stuff, and we can go rappelling, and because he worked for a guide shop, so I was like,
Yeah.
all right, let me just come out. So I went out, and like my therapist told me when I came back, she was like, you were like a different person. You were able to. I
Wow.
kind of was able to go out there and just. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's so different. Like when you leave like the East Coast and you go out west. So I landed in Las Vegas and it was dark. So I get in a rental car and it's dark the whole way. I get to my buddy Andy's house, and he actually was living in the time as like it was a water tower that got renovated into a house.
Oh
It was like
wow.
super cool. So it was dark, it was like going up this super dark road, and there's no light, so it's like super dark. You can't see anything. You wake
Yeah.
up and you're like on Mars. It's
Yeah.
like all this red rock, beautiful like expanse. I was just like I was like in shock. So I stayed there for like a week, and kind of we just got back to nature. We went out on like these super long hikes, and he brought all this like rappelling gear, ropes and stuff like that, and we would kind of rappel down into those canyons, those slot canyons and stuff. And he was like, there's a race around here that's like really long, and then it was like, yeah, what's it called? And he's like, I don't know, it's like Moab, like 3,000 or something like that. And I was like, oh yeah. So like I looked it up, and like literally I signed up on the plane ride home.
Wow.
For it, because like I lucked out that the day that I was going home was the day that like you can sign up for the lottery, because I went to lottery. I think the year before they let everybody in because it wasn't as popular. They got so much draw to it that they did the lottery. And I wrote a little blurb that I have PD, and I just want to be able to share my journey with people out there to try to gain awareness and let people know that there's hope out there. And then the woman that runs the race, Candace Burt, she's actually right now running she's trying to get the record for the most consecutive ultra marathons in a row.
Wow.
She's almost up to 200 days in a row with running 32 miles or more.
Oh, so she's kind of doing like a James Lawrence thing, like a Iron Cowboy thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but what did he do? Did he do 101?
101 full distance Ironman distance triathlons.
That dude's in like a different stratosphere.
Oh yeah, he's crazy.
But even Candace, think about it, waking up every day running 32 miles.
That's like still crazy.
Yeah. And like around like the 75th or 80th day, she did the Hurt 100 in Hawaii. So she ran 32 miles, then she runs the Hurt 100, and then the next day, after running 100 miles, you go out and run another 32. And then like she travels home, because that's probably like a 7-hour flight. She got off the flight, and like she couldn't get like home, so she just like basically ran from the airport home because like they didn't have like cars or something like that, like or her taxi didn't come, or like whatever her ride was, or that might have been when she landed in Hawaii. Like she had to get her mileage in, and she did it. And it's just like stuff like that. That just makes me like want to do stuff like that,
Yeah.
Throw caution to the wind, and like it doesn't matter, and I think that's kind of like it's like the approach of that kind of mirrors like our approach to PD. Like if you do ultra races and like endurance sports, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much you hurt. It doesn't matter, how many blisters you have, how much you're bleeding or anything like that. You just have to keep going. And like Parkinson's the same way. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter your medicine's not working today, because people depend on you. You have a family, and you just got to get up and get after it.
I learned so much from doing Ironman races before I had PD. I really think that those experiences really like helped me to be able to face this. Just because, if you can go out and do an Ironman, and the whole, you're out there for 12 plus hours.
Yeah.
And what that's like that whole day. I mean, you're running for multiple days in a row, not even sleeping. So you got to face your demons like multiple times throughout that experience. And you kind of learn that, you just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other,
Yeah.
And just keep moving. And it's kind of like how we have to treat PD.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting to me, your story about going to Moab, because for me, it's the Rockies. In Colorado, I haven't been to Moab. I actually haven't even been to Utah yet.
Mm-hmm.
But we go to Colorado.
Amazing.
Yeah, dude, I want to go out there so bad. I want to mountain bike there because I know the mountain biking is insane.
Crazy, yeah.
So for me, last year, I got my diagnosis in 2021, and then last year I was like, at the end of 2021. I had kidney cancer, and I was going through all of that.
Yeah.
And I had the surgery. The cancer was removed. That January of 2022, I was sitting around like, what am I going to do? And this thing popped up because I had been kind of paying attention to the Leadville 100. I'm actually wearing my shirt right now.
Yeah, look at that.
And I was like,
representing.
I was like, I got to do that. I got to go ride my mountain bike. I got to go ride 100 miles in freaking, 12,000 plus feet altitude.
The wilderness.
Yeah. I just had to, like, I was drawn to it. I had been interested in that race prior, like before I had PD, but it just became this thing. And I looked at my wife and she's like, sign up for it. But it's the same thing like what you had, where it's like it was a lottery, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't get in,
Okay.
and I found out, you can get in through charity if you
Yeah.
raise
Yeah.
money for the Livestrong Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So my wife was like, "Do it." So yeah, I mean, I signed up and we raised all the money in like less than a week.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It was insane. So we have a lot in common, dude. It's like the mountains are like my happy place, man. I don't know if you're like this, but sometimes I struggle with being where I am.
Mm-hmm.
Like I look around and I'm like, this place sucks. Like there's,
Yeah.
I live in the
It's
prairie.
gray. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like I want to go live in the mountains, man. I want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you ever feel like that? You ever feel like, man, I just gonna move to Utah or
Oh
wherever?
yeah. Like I've already thought, like, once the kids go to college, I'm Utah bound, man. That's it.
That's awesome.
Like I already know that. Like my neighbor. So like I moved into this house like I guess now two and a half, 2 and change years ago, and my neighbor at the time he was selling his house. So I move in, he's selling his house. I'm like, so what are you gonna do? And he's like, he got like a Sprinter van and tricked it out to be like a
Oh
camper.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then he's like, I'm selling the house and I don't want to buy a house down in Florida. I don't want to rent. So he's like, I'm going to take the car and take the new van. And then his son was starting college that following, like fall. So it's like me and my son are we're going to start north and just travel across country, work our way down the West Coast and hit all the parts, come back to the East Coast and work the way. And they did it, and
Oh
I
man, that would
mean,
be awesome.
that wouldn't that be great? That would be like
Yeah,
perfect kickoff to like retirement, and that's what it was for him. He did that on his way down to Florida and never heard from him again though.
I kind of have that. I kind of have that dream of just like, but it's complicated, and you got kids in school and all that. But
Hmm.
I have this dream of just like getting rid of all my stuff
Hmm.
except for my bikes
Yeah.
and buying an RV
Hmm.
and selling my house and just,
Yeah.
dude, just I don't have an address, man. I'm just
Hmm. Like a
wherever I want
nomad.
to be. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. You know
That'd be awesome.
that
But we
freedom.
we have responsibilities, so
Yeah. We got
it's
like
kind of
we each have 4 mouths to feed. Like and then number 5 for ourselves and bills, mortgage, responsibilities. They all stay there.
yeah.
But as long
So
I'm happy with my my current the way I have everything set up. I feel like I have a handle a little bit about parenting. Like I say that now, and I guarantee you tonight, in 5 hours when the kids get
you're gonna
home, they'll
regret saying
throw.
that.
There's going to be a monkey wrench, So, but
Yeah.
I think that's some of the life balance I've been able to gather, through having friends like yourself and being able to get outdoors and work things out, like physically work things out. It gets
Hmm.
my head straight, and it's all about gratitude, and coming at it's like a perspective, like if I wanted to, I could get so down so fast in a second, like why do I
Yes.
have PD, like all these things, but it's not going to help, man. It's
Yeah.
not going to get you through this day, and I try to look at each day with that attitude, like what can I do today that can help me, get 1% better. Did you ever hear that the 1% theory?
Yep.
Every day
Hmm.
you get 1% better.
It adds up.
Like think about how cumulative that is. It's like compounding
Yes.
interest, and
Yep.
like after a couple of months, if you've been able to do that consistently, and nobody's perfect. I'm not striving for that every day. There's days where I'm going to fall down,
Yep.
but just that's the attitude I try to take towards it. Just try to get a little bit better every day.
Yeah, it's tough. I went and did Leadville last year, and
Hmm.
I didn't finish because I just I I wasn't strong enough. I mean,
Hmm.
I blew myself up on the first two climbs and ended up having such bad cramps. And
Yeah,
it wasn't dehydration cramps. It was like just complete exhaustion cramps.
yeah, muscle
And
failure.
yeah, and I couldn't breathe. Like the altitude's crazy.
Yeah.
And so I missed the cutoff. So I got to mile 40 and I had to stop. But
Okay.
I'm not done. I'm gonna do it again. I'm not doing it
Yeah.
this year, but I'm just trying to take this year to work through what do I need to do. I need to get stronger.
Hmm.
Trying to address the things that I think I need to address so
Yeah.
that I can do it again.
Yeah.
But there's some times where you're like you said, where it's like I'm questioning whether I can do it. It's like
Hmm.
I tried to do a mountain bike race a few weeks ago, and dude, I didn't have it that day.
Yeah.
I bailed after 13 miles. I was
Yeah.
supposed to do 55, and it was tough mentally to just be like, man, I just got to be done. Cause I basically came to the conclusion of I could keep pushing through this, but like,
Mm-hmm.
what is that going to
What end?
accomplish
Yeah.
other than making me feel even more exhausted and tired
Mm-hmm.
and not, so I knew I didn't have it. And I just like, you know what? So, but sometimes those little voices come in your head and you're like, see, you
Mm-hmm.
can't do that. You're not going to be able to do
No,
Leadville.
no.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
shut up.
Yeah. And if you're anything like me, which I think you are, like
Yeah.
no one's harder on you than yourself.
No.
Like you would never talk the way that I talk to myself in my head sometimes. I would never let anybody talk to anybody I knew or loved
100%.
like that. And
100%.
like, and I think
So,
that's
hey,
what kind of, you have to
if you
kind
get
of
that
get,
talk going,
yeah,
you just call me or you send it
I
to me
know.
and I'll say, stop talking to Joe like that or I'm going to kick your butt.
Yeah. Giving yourself a little bit of, showing yourself a little bit of grace and empathy
Oh,
is like
it's,
one of the hardest things to do. But if you can achieve that, it opens so many doors because, that thought spiral, like when you don't finish that, when you at mile 40, if you're negative to yourself and you start listening to it and then you start believing it, that's
yep.
a 3-month spiral right there that like you
Mm-hmm.
just lost, because just because you're not really sure what the coping skills are to kind of talk yourself out of that,
Yep.
and and I get all that from just like listening to the right podcast, reading the right books,
Yep.
like and other people. Like I don't have any original thoughts. Like everything that I said in this podcast, none of that was mine. Absolutely none of it. Something good I stole from somebody way in the back, like and that's okay though, because I'll take that from people, and learn from them and take their experiences and their hope, and I'll take that and I'll run with it, because
But
that's
your
gonna look good
mentality
for me.
your mentality is, is yours, like you don't have to go run 240 miles, right? Like
Mm,
you're
No.
doing that because there's something in you that's
Hmm.
driving you to do that. And you have to do that. And I'm the same way. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have to go ride 100 miles in the Rockies, but like I've always been like the one that wanted to do the hard thing.
Yeah.
Like what's the hard, like I did my first triathlon. This is a funny story. I did my first sprint triathlon, which is like a really short thing.
Hmm.
And afterwards, I signed up for Ironman 70.3, and that was my second triathlon. So
Yeah.
that's like running a 5K
Yeah.
and then signing up for a marathon.
Yeah.
And like a
Funny
marathon,
story. So I'm on the race trip. I'm running Moab 240, and you're just like running in like a group of people, and like everybody's chit chatting and stuff. They're like,
yeah.
"So how far have you ran before this?" And I was like, 35 miles. And
What?
they're like, "Wait, no, no, no. Like, what was the longest race you ran before this?" And I was like, 35 miles, And they're like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, what? Like, there's no rules. You can do whatever you want,
No.
man. And that's the approach I take towards it. It's just like, if you can do it, I can do it.
Yes.
So, but
So
you definitely get people looking at you like, and then like, so I remember like I said that, right? And then like people started like talking about it. And then like I got to like one of the aid stations, and they were like, I was like, you just walk up and you're like, and they wait on you like really nicely, like hand and foot, because
yeah.
you're running all through the night. You
Hmm.
come into those aid stations and you're just like a mess. You want to quit. You're like bleeding, sweating, dirty, like
Yes.
blisters. Like there's so many ailments, and like you come in and I'm like, can I have something to eat? I just need something that's like gluten free, because like I have like gluten allergy, which is great. Another thing that I can add to my list, and I overhear the people like the people at the aid station. They're like, yeah, some guy's running this race. This is the first race he's ran over 35 miles. And I was like, that's me right here. I'm that idiot, right? And
Oh,
they're
by
like,
the
what
way,
are
I
you
have
doing?
Parkinson's disease.
Yeah, and oh yeah,
You
and then
drop that on them, then they're
yeah,
really going to be like, what the?
yeah, and that was another one too. Where so like my medicine started wearing off at some point, and I started taking some again. But I came into an aid station, and I was going like this, but I didn't even notice it, because like at that point I was like 48 hours in, like no sleep. I was like hallucinating. I was running down this
Yes.
trail, and I thought I saw like dads at barbecues, like like grilling hamburgers, but then
Oh, yeah.
it was bushes, and I was hallucinating that the bushes looked like that. So I
Wow.
come into the aid station, and I'm doing that, and the guy's like, "You all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Do you always have that tick?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I have Parkinson's." He's like, is running like this good for that? I'm like, no, it's horrible. He's like, he's like, well, what about running is good for Parkinson's? Like your symptoms. I'm like, at the time, nothing. Like it exasperates everything. The more energy you drain out of your body, the harder it is to control those tics and those movements and stuff. And he's like, well, why do you do it? I'm like, well, for the next day, I'm stronger and I can keep that, at bay. And he was like, it's like, that sounds good. And he was like, be careful out there. And he was the one that actually, he said, he's the one that told me, he's like, you can't go on. And 156 miles, I came into the aid station and it was at night and the wind was blowing like 40 miles an hour. And my water bladder broke and got all my clothes wet.
Oh, dude,
so
you're freezing.
I ran for about like 18 miles, like just shivering. And I think I told you the story where I got one of those blankets, like one of those like foil blankets, survival blankets. And I was like, I needed to warm up. So I got off it was like the middle of the night. I got off the trail and I kind of sat in it and like pulled it over my head and I was just like huffing into it to try to like get some warmth in me. And, it was just didn't work out, so.
Yeah, dude. But hey, like it was incredible that you ran that far. That's unbelievable, just in and of itself. And the fact that you're signed up again to do it, that's just a testament to your will and your determination. But I again, we're similar. I was doing a training ride for Leadville. Like I went up to Leadville last year and early, to try to acclimate. And there was a couple guys that I rode with on a training ride before the race. Yeah. We're chit chatting. And I know these guys kind of because they're from my area. Mm-hmm. And they're like, so, you've been doing a lot of mountain bike racing? And I was like, nah. They're like, well, what races have you done before Leadville? I was like, I haven't. And they're like, wait. They're like, wait, the Leadville 100 is your first mountain bike race? I was like, yeah.
It seems that way.
They're like, dude, that's a hell of a first race.
Right. Go for it, buddy. That's the thing. Like sometimes like ignorance is bliss, like you don't know that you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're like,
or
you can push it out.
Or maybe people know that, but they're kind of like, oh, let's just see how this turns out. You know,
maybe that's a self-limiting, thing.
Oh, I 100% believe that. Like, other people in your life or yourself, I think, can say things that you end up limiting yourself when you don't really need to.
Yeah.
So you almost have to kind of almost like dumb or like just crazy enough to kind of ignore those things.
I was training for whatever it was, one of the races, and I wound up like getting a stress fracture in my hip and tearing my hip labrum.
Oh, dang.
And it happened because I was doing back-to-back long runs. So I ran like 30 on a Saturday, and the next day I was supposed to run 10. And I wound up running 18. And at mile 10, it started hurting. And I just kind of was like, it's just soreness, I'll just push through it. And then the next day, like I couldn't walk. So I went to the like ortho. He did like a scan, like x-ray and then an MRI. He's like, you're either like the toughest guy I've ever met or the dumbest. And I was like, why? And he's like, you tore your labrum, which is really hard to do. And then he's like, you have a stress fracture on the high end of your hip. So like you have musculature that goes there. And like it's stress fractured, not because of like me pounding, but because of like the muscles got so tight, it like stressed out my hip. And I was like, well, I think I'm kind of like probably a little bit of both. I'm just like too dumb for my own good and too tough for my own good sometimes,
Yeah.
But you get stronger,
That's awesome,
you get better, and get after it,
So I want to kind of wrap it up because we've been going for a while soon, but I do want to know, like, what did you learn from the first Leadville experience? I mean, from the first Moab experience that you're going to take with you this time, and what are you going to do differently with training, if anything?
So, this sounds like, duh, Joe, like this should be your number one, but like I only brought one watch.
Okay.
And my watch died. And wouldn't take a charge. So at that point, I couldn't time my medicine. So at that point, I'm just guessing pretty much because I'm running with people. I'm like, you know what time it is? And like, they're like, you can't do that. Our medicine has to be like on point, like every, especially if I'm doing something like that where I'm burning through stuff. I got to be every 4 hours like clockwork. Boom, boom, boom.
And even though you're on Rotari, you're going to need to take extra meds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'll be able, I have like the carbidopa levodopa pills that I supplement sometimes. Like
Yep.
if I'm not feeling good, I'll throw in like a half a pill, like 100 milligrams or something like that.
Like every couple hours, just pop one or two if you need to. Like just you have to experiment with it when you're training. But yeah, it'll help.
So that's important, making sure my medicine's dialed in and having an extra pair of clothes, because there was just so many things. Like I lost a pole. Like first time ever hiking with poles. I lost one of them at one point. I lost my sunglasses at one point, and then somebody found them and like brought them. Like they wound up passing me, and like they were like, everybody that they were going past, they're like, "Oh, did you leave a pole? Did you leave a pole?" And I was like, "I did," because like you use them and they really do help you get through stuff.
Oh yeah.
There was like a combination of stuff there that like if any one thing didn't happen, I would have been able to finish. I feel like. But between the bladder breaking and, I started hallucinating because I wasn't sleeping, and I would lay down on the side of the trail and I would try to close my eyes, but I just couldn't fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was just so pumped and excited to be out there and just, going after it, that like adrenaline wasn't going to do that. And by the end of that race, like I was not in a good spot, so getting a little sleep, getting something on, keeping my medicine, bringing an extra watch, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have you thought about trying UCAN?
No, what's that?
Oh, that's the sports nutrition that I use.
Okay.
I'm an ambassador for them this year, actually. We'll talk about it later, but it's I just switched to that this year, and it's really, really good because it doesn't have sugar in it, so it doesn't give you those sugar spikes.
Yeah, I don't do well with sugar anymore.
Yeah,
definitely. So I feel like after PD, it's definitely gotten me. Like I don't feel well after it.
I think it could be a good option for you to help you, with the nutrition piece of it. So, but we can talk about it later.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So what are the chances that you're going to finish the Leadville? I mean, I keep saying Leadville. What are the chances that you're going to complete the Moab 240 this year?
Oh, 150%, man. There's no way. Awesome. There's no way I'm backing down. I mean, they're going to have to pull me off the course if that's what's going to go on. But
that's awesome.
I'm going to dial in my training. We're starting to get into the spring now. So I usually generally take a little bit of time off, like in the winter, just because the weather around here is like a little wonky.
Yep.
But, I'm going to start my training up soon here. And then, you learn so much, just those few things that we talked about. But there's, like, I wrote down in a journal some of the things like that you learn and, that are invaluable to actually the experience of running the actual race. So, I think I'll have everything dialed in and I'll be able to finish. So looking forward to it. It's October, I'm looking forward to middle of October this year sometime. So
yeah,
keep an eye out for me.
Yeah, dude, I might actually try to see if I can come out there. We'll see.
Oh, that'd be great.
I would really like to.
Yeah.
So if people want to follow your journey, where's the best place they can go to kind of track, your progress on socials or whatnot?
It would be on Instagram. My handle is Ultra Parkinsons Dad on there. So like, and underneath there's like a link tree to all my other socials. So cool. If you go to Instagram, Ultra Parkinsons Dad, that's me.
Awesome. So hopefully people
I have a beard in the picture, so I got to change that. But,
oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think that is. I remember seeing that, and I was like, "Oh, is this the same guy?" Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool, man. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. I think people will be surprised. I hope they will be surprised that somebody with Parkinson's can, run 156 miles or 240 miles without stopping.
Yeah.
It's just insane that any human can do that, to be honest.
Yeah, so, definitely.
Even more so for you. So I'm very inspired by you, man. So I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing how everything turns out this year.
For you, man, definitely. I'm all about talking to people. If you have any questions, or if you feel like just reaching out to me, hit me up on a DM. And if you have any questions about my journey, or if you have any questions about like what you're going through, or if you need help, or if you just want to talk, like I'm available. So
awesome.
Please reach out if you guys need anything. So
awesome.
And I'll be bugging you for a long time, buddy.
I hope so.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I'll bug you too.
Thanks, man.
All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on.
No problem.
All right.
Everybody be good.